strength when I'm weak. You are the joy that I see.
I have these two paintings that are really valuable to me. When my daughter Sydney was 3 years old, I wanted to illustrate what the Christian life looked like, and I wanted to try and use something visual to teach students and adults and people what it looks like to surrender your life to God and to embrace His presence and to amplify it in your everyday life. And so what I did is I went and I bought these two canvases, and I bought all these paints, and I set them up in my garage, and my 3-year-old daughter came, and she was just so excited. We were going to spend the day painting, and what turned into a day turned into 2 weeks. And so we painted, and you can imagine what a 3-year-old painting would look like. And she's had no training. She hasn't taken painting classes. She didn't know the rules or the laws or anything. And we just started painting and painting. And for 2 weeks, we painted these 2 paintings. She made every stroke, every mark. She picked colors. She made decisions on how and when, and it was a time in my life where God taught me a lot. And I was just setting this up to teach a biblical or a spiritual principle. I want you to imagine as I'm talking, before I show you those paintings, what they would have looked like. What do you think? I mean, maybe you have siblings that are 3 years old. What do you think a 3-year-old painting would look like?
Here's my plea. You, Jesus, are all I need, because your love allows me to live a life for you, because your love wipes away all my shame.
So these paintings, I believe, illustrate in a real easy way to understand how you embrace God's presence and how you amplify it. Well, what does this look like? What does this feel like? And really, how do you do this? It's a question of wisdom. That's what it means when you say how. Where or how or where's the wisdom in how I do this? Coram Deo is the Latin word or phrase that means living in the gaze of God, living in the presence of God. I think we just forget that God sees and knows everything, that wherever we are, however we're living, He sees it, and we just forget that. I think we would behave completely different, that we would embrace God's presence and we would amplify it if we didn't forget that He's right there. I mean, we behave completely different when our parents are watching, or when our youth pastor's watching, or when our friends from church are watching, because they're right there. And we forget that God is everywhere. Coram Deo means that you're living in the face, living in the presence of God, and that you're remembering it every moment of every day, wherever you're at. Okay, so what I want you to do is just use your imagination for a second. You don't have to close your eyes, but if it's better, close your eyes. And just visualize what you would think a 3-year-old painting would look like. Again, Sydney made every mark, every gesture, every color, every inch of this painting without any training or classes or knowing the laws or the rules of painting. She's 3 years old. And we went into my garage, and she spent the 2 weeks with me, about an hour a day or so, painting. And this was the first painting that she painted. It's pretty amazing. I mean, it's a perfect skyline. Sun and road, and I know what you're thinking. It's not true. She didn't paint this painting. There's no way. And when I show this to people, they never believe me. But what I want you to know is that I'm being completely honest. She made every mark. Now there is a trick. There is a catch to it. For this painting, she had to put her hand in my hand. She had to surrender to me. And we made every mark and every gesture together. And this was a huge challenge. I think I got a little bit of what it feels like when we take our lives into our own hands and God is sitting there going, hold on a second. No, that's not my plan for you. When we forget God's presence and that He guides us and that He directs us and that we're supposed to live in His presence and embrace His presence and amplify it. We do what Sydney did because I said to her, Sydney, this painting is a painting you and I are doing together. I have understanding and knowledge and wisdom that you don't have. A couple of days, she's like, Dad, no, I know how to do it. Let me. And I'm like, no, Sydney, these are the rules. No, I wanted to. And she'd start to get upset. She wanted to do it her way. And so I would let her. I said, okay. And she began to paint the road. And before she knew what had happened, she looked at it and the road was crooked and the lines were messed up and the paint was running. And she starts to cry and says, I messed it up. And I said, no, but Sydney, you have to remember. You have to surrender. That's what we're doing on this painting. And she would have to put her hand back in my hand, and we went back and we fixed it. This is Coram Deo. This is embracing the presence of God and amplifying it. It's when you surrender every moment of every day of your life into God's hands, and you let Him direct you. And you can't do this if you forget His presence. Coram Deo, living in the presence of God. Okay, here's the painting that Sydney did all by herself. This looks more like a 3-year-old painting, doesn't it? She did this one without any help, and you can see there's a pizza here, I think Abraham Lincoln, there's a little mouse over here. This is Abraham Lincoln. Maybe not. Who knows? It's abstract. There is no specific marks or definition to what she was doing. This is what a life looks like that doesn't live in the presence of God. It's kind of abstract. And abstract's cool in art, but in regards to relationship, in regards to finances, in regards to life, abstract doesn't work. Abstract is messy. Abstract is confusing. Abstract is lost when it comes to life. This is a painting that demonstrates what a life looks like separate from God's rules and God's direction and from surrendering to God.
Because your love allows me to live a life for you.
This painting illustrates a life that embraces God in every aspect, in every moment. Coram Deo, that you choose to remember to live in the gaze of God with every moment and every decision that you make. It's something that's not easy, but it's as simple as just remembering. Or you could choose to forget God and let Him direct your life. And if you make that choice, you're going to find satisfaction that you can't even explain. Satisfaction that really feeds your soul. And everybody around you is going to know that there's something different in the joy and the satisfaction simply because you choose to embrace God's presence and amplify it.